Now, there is a big development that what we are getting of news reports and sources that inform that the government of India has revealed that days before IRIS Dena, which was the Iranian vessel, the incident that happened in the south of Sri Lanka, Iran had approached India seeking an urgent docking of one of its other naval ships. Now, the Iranian vessel IRIS Lavan, which was in the region for international fleet review, had reportedly developed technical issues. Now, the request that was received on the 28th of February, and India approved the docking next day at Kochi on the 1st of March, and the ship later docked at Kochi on the 4th of March, and its crew of 183 members are being currently accommodated at the naval facilities in Kochi. Now, add the escalating conflict in West Asia and days after the US striking an Iranian naval vessel, new details seems to have emerged about Iran reaching out to India for assistance. Now, sources within the government of India revealed that days before IRIS Dena incident that happened in south of Sri Lanka and international waters, Iran had approached India seeking urgent docking of one of its naval ships. So let's straight away go across to Imran. He's joining us from Galle in Sri Lanka. We are getting you this exclusive updates because Imran, the pictures came in yesterday as far as the rescue operations that are being carried out by the Sri Lankan Navy. Multiple soldiers who, however, survived when it comes to the sinking of IRIS Dena were brought to multiple hospitals as well, and their bodies are also being retrieved of those 80+ sailors who seem to have not survived this incident.
Well, absolutely. In fact, the 33 sailors are still being taken care of at the National Hospital here in Galle. And in fact, there is a huge diplomatic standoff happening over this particular issue. But what the diplomatic cables have first found out, what's getting to know, is that the US has asked the government not to repatriate whether the surviving 33 members or the 108 members of the 208 members, I beg your pardon, of the next crew, which has been taken into safety to custody by the Sri Lankan government there and brought to Colombo. Now there is a big standoff is happening after what the world considered as a World War II. US has sunk a ship there, and that too which had come for a friendly exercise here in India. And after that, we had 19 nautical miles off the Sri Lankan coast where this incident happened, where the US had bombed this frigate, IRIS Dena. Now we were getting to know that the US is asking the Sri Lankan government not to send back the sailors, whether those injured or the latest second round of ship. But we are, this is a big stand of the Sri Lankan government has said that there is a neutral party to this entire incident and they do not want to take anybody's sides. How which way the things will go further will have a lot of implications both regionally and also internationally. We are right now at this hospital there, the National Galle Hospital. As you can see, this is the building where the heavy security is there, and the third floor of this building, what is showing you right now, is where all the 33 sailors have been treated right now by the Iranian sailors, by the Sri Lankan government there. In fact, there was 18 members had died in that incident which happened. It's considered after the World War II the biggest incident where a frigate, where a naval ship was sunk by the US government. Now, this is over this issue. There's a huge diplomatic standoff is happening between India, Sri Lanka, and also in US. Many are all saying that the Indian government, if they had come for a friendly fire, a friendly exercise, I beg your pardon, to India, and the Indian government should have stepped up. But Indian experts and officials have said that this is the incident happened way off the Indian nautical miles, in fact more than 12 nautical miles, where the jurisdiction comes in international waters. And the challenge the critics of the Indian government has said that the responsibility lies on the US on the incident. In fact, the Sri Lankan sources informed that they were aware that the submarine had come when the US Pacific Commander had visited Sri Lanka, and that the US was carrying out such an exercise was they were not aware of it, but they're saying that they are a neutral party. They are providing all kinds of diplomatic and medical assistance to the people there who especially the sailors, and are in touch with the Iranian government as to how to take this things further. US has clearly stated not to repatriate or send them back to sailors, whether the injured ones or the right now what being taken in the second naval ship from Shumar, because where they had the engine failure was there, and they were brought to Colombo, and US is exerting pressure is what we're getting to know. Sri Lanka has said that they are a neutral party, they're not going to take any sides.
All right, that's the exclusive report that we are getting from Sri Lanka, as Imran has been reporting from the National Hospital there in Galle, where multiple Iranian soldiers who seems to have survived the attack are now getting treatment, but rescue and relief operations that have also started on part of the navies of both Sri Lanka and also of India. Let's introduce Lieutenant General Asit Mistry, who is joining us on the broadcast, and Lieutenant General D.P. Pandey as well. Good morning to you, gentlemen. Thank you very much for taking out your time. Lieutenant General D.P. Pandey, sir, what is your assessment as far as questions that are now being raised over could India have done anything? But India, meantime, when the questions are being raised of sharing any possible intel on the location of the IRIS Dena, well, India has termed it as preposterous already. But India coming to the rescue when it comes to IRIS Dena, that also seems to be on a humanitarian point of view that India has been lending help and support, especially when it finding any survivors as possible or retrieving when it comes to the bodies of the fallen soldiers.
Yeah, so let's go, sir. My regards to General Mistry, whom I really respect and regard a lot. I just want to start with the sequencing of the event. Okay. They had come, the Iranian ships, like many others, including the Americans, were with us for the Indian International Peace Tribunal. And thereafter, they were also part of Operation Naval. And then they all went back to their respective locations where they had to go. Now, there were a couple of Iranian ships, out of which IRIS Lavan. Unfortunately, the government has released this information only yesterday. If they had done slightly earlier, the whole conversation would have not taken place on the subject. And Lavan was given because it was facing some technicalities, some issues, and they were given a harbor space based on the request of the Iranians. So clearly, India respects its guests when they require when they request. The second is that Dina did not ask for any help. It moved on its path wherever it had to move. Now, when they are off the coast of Sri Lanka, right? Actually, when you see even the alignment and when you draw, it is exactly south from south of our southern tip. You got Sri Lanka, and thereafter south of it is this incident where it's taking place. Now, at international waters, how do you presume this presumption was required to be done by the Iranians to know that they are likely to be hit by Americans? Because I'm quite sure if the Iranians had the opportunity to hit back onto an American ship or Israeli ship or even a Gulf country ship, they would have taken that call to hit wherever it's possible. So therefore, they have got hit. There are two questions which are coming out. That did India provide information intelligence to the Americans? I don't think so. In today's world where you have transparency of movement, especially at the high seas, it is what ships are. And Americans were part of this entire gig which happened in terms of IFR. They knew there were two Iranian ships. Now, when they are going to fall back, there will be possibility of ambushing them in two. And any professional army will look at it that allowing two ships to go back and join their respective country, getting fully armed, fully into a battle, this thing is not a great option, and therefore it is better to take them out before they join operations. So this is the call which Americans have taken. I will not like to comment upon that part. So therefore, there is no intelligence per se was required to be actually. It's such an open and shut case that two ships are there, one has not come out, one has moved out, and Americans are keeping a tab on it.
And after they conducted that naval exercise with India, had gone beyond when it comes to the territorial waters, it was in international waters. India does not bear any responsibility as far as when it comes to this incident has now concerned, because under the UN Convention of the Law of the Sea, a country's territorial waters extend up to 12 nautical miles from its coastline. Let me go back to our reporter again. Yes, I'm just going back to Imran, sir, because we are getting this exclusive ground report from Gaul itself at the National Hospital there, where multiple of the Iranian soldiers who survived the attack are currently receiving treatment. So, Imran, if you can hear me now, even there in Sri Lanka, there have been several questions that have now been raised, but on part of the support that is now being extended, both Sri Lanka and India have now come forward. Imran,
Well, absolutely.
yes.
Sri Lankan government has said that they are a neutral party to the whole incident, and they're saying that we are not going to take any sides as far as the issue is concerned. As far as they're concerned, their only thing is that the sailors were there on their coastline, and there's a humanitarian part. They have extended all their help as far as the diplomatic and medical help has been provided to them. And as a humanitarian effort, the Sri Lankan government has done it. They said that as far as the war is concerned, they're not going to take whether it's the Iranian side or whether it's the US side, because both are economic partners to them. Both have both diplomatic and economic channels in economic huge interest in that, whether it's Iran, whether it's the US, whether it's Israel. So they have diplomatic and economic interest, and they said that as far as the issue is concerned, as a part of a humanitarian gesture, they have reached out to the parties and they provided medical aid to the soldiers, and they're doing whatever the diplomatic efforts are there as far as both the countries are concerned. However, what we're getting to know from sources that the US is exerting pressure on Sri Lanka is not to send back, repatriate both the sailors which are injured there. Right behind me is the National Hospital now, Gaul, where we're talking about this exact building where we're showing the videos of. The third is exclusive videos, information and visuals what we're showing to the viewers in India, that in that's not the only channel reached out to her where we're showing you the visuals that the heavy presence is there of the cops. They're not allowing any media to cover near it, saying that threat to the life of the sailors. This is the exact where the 33 injured sailors are being treated, whereas the other ship where the crew and the sailors and the senior sailors have been safely been taken to Colombo.
Yes.
The US is asking Sri Lanka not to send them back to Iran and saying that they're part of the war issue and there to be anything further needs to be done. They have
Yes, because on part of the United States and President Trump, they have completely eliminated and they have sunk several ships of the Iranian Navy. As he says, they lie at the bottom of the sea now. But Lieutenant General Asif Misri, sir, because a US submarine, a torpedo sinking the Iranian frigate IRIS Dena, approximately 40 nautical miles off Sri Lanka's southern coast, sir, killing over 80 sailors. Do you believe that it reignites the global debate over maritime sovereignty and the law of the sea?
The UN Convention for the Laws of Sea, or UNCLOS as it is known, is essentially for peacetime use of the open oceans. It is not strictly for conduct of naval warfare. It does not govern the conduct of naval warfare. As far as this whole incident is concerned, the question arises that when the tensions were already built up, when the American fleet had built up with such large strength in and around the Persian Gulf, or beyond the Gulf of Oman in the Arabian Sea, how these two ships would have made it back through that kind of stranglehold that the US forces had. The International Fleet Review finished on 25th of February. IRIS Lavan sought refuge on 28th of February. Reportedly, even IRIS Dena was offered the shelter. However, this is not a confirmed input, but some sources have been quoted that the government of India had offered shelter, but IRIS Dena declined, or the government of Iran declined shelter for Dena, but Lavan was given shelter as requested. And this sanction or shelter approval was made on 1st of March, whereas IRIS Dena was hit on 4th of March early morning. So had it wanted, it had sufficient time to seek shelter either with a Sri Lankan port or with an Indian port. It was just 20 or 40 nautical miles south of Gaul. So it had sufficient time to have sought shelter. So we don't know as to why it did not seek shelter or did not take the shelter that was offered. So the responsibility then rested entirely on the crew or the captain or the authorities of IRIS Dena and the government of Iran.
Absolutely, because Lieutenant General Pandey, sir, does it mean that venturing into international waters was a mistake that IRIS Dena made? Because had there been sufficient time, this incident may have not happened or could have been avoided. But the lurking of a nuclear-equipped submarine of the US in international waters so close to our, virtually our background, is this a concern?
What is so close? It is not in your territorial water. It is not even in your EEZ, right? Even if it was an EEZ, it is an open game, right? But it is not even in EEZ. It is beyond 200 nautical miles. So beyond 200 nautical miles, even our ships, our subs, our military vessels are moving around. So you are not going to be asking permission to everybody that our subs are there. Therefore, we should. And second is, the very purpose of submarines to be moving around in international waters, closely lurking, gathering intelligence and everything, is the basic premise on which the submarines are made. If they are wanted to be totally open, this thing, they will not be required to have submarines. You will be having a proper frigate and military warships moving around on the surface of the sea. So basically, people are, there everybody's trying to equate that we are not asking why US has done X, Y, Z. In a war condition, we should also be prepared to do the same thing to an enemy. Second is, IRIS Dena, let's congratulate rather than saying that the mistake of the captain and the crew. I think they had an orders to come back. They took that orders. They could also have taken a recourse of not wanting to stay. They could have taken the offer which Indian government gave to stay back as a good host. But as a military, I'm sure Journalist Mistry will agree with me that both of us were in the situation of IRIS Dena.
Yes,
we would have still taken a call to join back.
Absolutely, because it's a war zone that we are looking at, and to join back its forces would have been the topmost priority, because Sri Lanka now says, because it is also dealing with another Iranian vessel inside its exclusive economic zone while trying to safeguard the lives following the incident what happened with IRIS Dena. Request you